Chapter 1 Living World Introduction Planet Earth is made up of abiotic and biotic components. The biotic components are obviously the living beings present around us. The question is, why do we call them living and how do they differ from non-living? Basic principle of life. A. The living being once produced or born has to survive. For survival, it needs energy and many chemical molecules. For energy, it has to perform metabolism. Metabolism is breaking of molecules, that is catabolism, and making of new molecules, that is anabolism. B. From birth onwards, organisms show tendency of growth and development. This growth is a well-orchestrated process. You might have observed sand mounds, boulders grow, etc. This growth is not from within and hence these are not living beings. C. Growth and development are not the processes which have unlimited time span. At certain point of time, the molecules, organs, systems begin to lose their effective working and become old. This is aging process of the body. D. Life has to continue, hence the organism tries to produce a young one like itself. It is possible due to reproduction, asexual or sexual. This ensures continuity of race. Mules, sterile worker bees do not reproduce yet are living. Can we call reproduction an inclusive characteristic of life? E. As the body loses its capacity to perform metabolism, the organism dies. F. Any living being responds to thermal, chemical, or biological changes in the surrounding. This is unique property of living beings. There is immense diversity in living organisms. Since time immemorial, variety of organisms are living together on Earth. In order to understand the interrelations between living and non-living, as well as between two living beings or groups, systematic study of these is essential. This data is also important for various industries and agriculture. Intensive laboratory and field studies in order to identify and classify the organisms form strong basis for meaningful use of the collected data. If we need to study this diversity, certain aids called taxonomical aids can be used. These include herbaria, botanical gardens, museums, biodiversity parks, etc. Herbaria. The collection or deposition of dried plant material by using various techniques of preservation and their arrangement in the sequence of an accepted classification forms herbaria. The preservation techniques include mostly the pressing and drying of plant material. However, the succulent plant or plants unsuitable for drying and pressing technique are fixed in suitable liquid preservatives like formaldehyde, acetic alcohol, etc. A herbarium technique involves collection, drying, poisoning, mounting, stitching, labeling, and deposition. Herbaria are associated with research institutes, scientific societies, botanic gardens, universities, and colleges. In a developing country like India, the herbaria are small and built up by government or private agencies.
Herbaria can be classified into three main categories such as A. Regional herbaria, B. Local herbaria, and C. Herbaria of educational institutions including schools, colleges, and universities. The herbaria preserve national, regional, local plant wealth and help to carry out research programs of fundamental or of applied value. It also facilitates exchange and loan of preserved plant material for various purposes like exhibitions, research, etc. It fulfills public demand by supplying plant material and giving scientific information regarding plants by arranging training courses.
Botanical gardens. Botanical gardens are the places where plants of different varieties collected from different parts of the world are grown in a scientific and systematic in vivo manner. Plants are labeled. The label board shows scientific as well as common name of the plant. Know the scientists. In 1543, first botanical garden of the world was established by an Italian professor, Luca Ghini, AD 1490 to 1556 at Pisa, Italy. Botanical Garden at Kew in England is known for largest collection of more than 30,000 specimens, that is, preserved plants, and more than 7 million herbaria. Conservation of biodiversity. Biodiversity is the degree of variation of life forms in an ecosystem. Biodiversity is essential to maintain ecological stability. The extent of complexity and density of biodiversity can be regarded as a measure of health of an ecosystem. Population explosion and overexploitation of resources has resulted in loss of biodiversity at an alarming rate. Conservation involves attempting to slow down, stop, or even reverse the loss in the natural habitat of organisms. This is known as in situ conservation. Why does the loss of biodiversity matter? For many people, it is a simple moral or ethical issue. We share our planet with a huge range of other organisms, and we have no right to harm them. Biodiversity helps to maintain stability of an ecosystem. Loss of one variety of organisms can affect entire ecosystem. Museum. Museums are the places where collections of preserved plant and animal specimens are kept. Plant and animal specimens may be preserved in formalin, that is 10% to 40% formaldehyde, in transparent jars. Jars are labeled. Larger animals like birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved. This science is known as taxidermy. Specimens of dried form are also kept in museum. We can even find systematic collections of shells, skeletons of animals, insect boxes in museums. Thus, biological museums in educational institutes are reference hubs of biodiversity studies. Zoological parks. Zoological park, generally known as zoo, is a place of interest for common man. In a zoo, wild animals are kept in captivity. They are protected and care is taken to provide conditions similar to their natural habitat. In a zoo, a naturalist can study food habits and behavior of animals. Flora, manuals, monographs, and catalogue are some other tools of maintaining biodiversity records. Flora is the plant life occurring in a particular area on time. A monograph describes any one selected biological group, whereas manual provides information, keys about identification of species found in a particular area. Biodiversity parks. It is an ecological assemblage of species that form self-sustaining communities on degraded or barren landscape. Example, Late Uttamrao Patil Biodiversity Park, Gureghar, Mahabaleshwar. This park is the best model for conservation of natural heritage in urban landscape. Systematic classification of living organisms is helpful in understanding the interrelations. In order to understand interrelations between organisms and maintain harmony on planet Earth, study of biodiversity is a must. Know the scientists. Dr. S.P. Agarkar. One of the leading botanists of India, Dr. S.P. Agarkar was born in November 1884 in Malvan, Maharashtra. He explored biodiversity of Western Ghats, where he came across a species of freshwater jellyfish, which was until then only known to be found in Africa. These findings were published in scientific journal Nature in 1912. Dr. Anna Dale, the superintendent of the Indian Museum in Kolkata, helped Dr. Agarkar in his further endeavors to collect, preserve, and conduct microscopic examinations of animal and plant specimens. The Institute, ARI, Pune, has been named after his name. Key is taxonomical aid used for classification of plants and animals. The keys are based on contrasting characters. One of the contrasting characters gets accepted and other rejected. The statement in key is called a lead. Normally, keys are analytical in nature. Let us study about classification of living organisms in next chapter. Do you know? When plants from any forest locality are conserved on the name of holy place, it is called as